Okay, so I decided to make a coconut cream pie for my birthday, and as you can see, I've already started. I remembered partway through that I had wanted to record this. This is the first time I'm making it, and so hopefully it turns out. I'm following a recipe that I got online. I can't remember the site. Let's see. Food Network. So from Emerald. So anyway, the things I'm doing differently is that I'm not going to be using cow's milk. Since I have some dairy issues, I use goat milk in almost all of my baking. I think that it helps to still use milk, but if you have trouble with cow's milk, you might try goat milk, which is what I use in my bread recipe. Also, since I have celiac, I'm using a gluten-free pie crust. I got this one from Sprouts here in Texas. Oh no, I got this from Natural Grocer. They didn't have one at Sprouts. So maybe you can find one at Trader Joe's or a more expensive boutique kind of place. But I don't make my own crusts unless it's kind of a graham crackery kind of crust, and then I use almond meal. That's never really been my specialty. That's more my brother's thing. So anyway, what I started with is I bought some shredded coconut, and I had a really hard time finding already toasted coconut, so I just did it myself. It came out a little darker than I had intended, but I think it'll probably still taste pretty good, and I guess we'll find out. Also, I've warmed 2 cups of goat's milk and put 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar in. Now I'm at the point where I'm going to start working with the eggs. I've taken 3 eggs out of the fridge. They really need to be room temperature, but I forgot. So I warmed them up in some warm water, and now they feel room temperature. So what I'm going to do is add the cornstarch. No, I'm going to whisk the eggs together, and then I'm going to bring up the temperature of the eggs with some of the warm milk, so that when I do add the egg yolks, they don't end up cooking. So these are to be separated. We're going to use just the egg yolks for this part, and I'm going to put the egg whites in this smaller dish to use later. So when I separate eggs, I use the shell instead of some kind of neat device. My mom had one by Tupperware, but I just used the shell. And I did that backwards. So put the egg yolk in there. Important to try and get the shell in half so that you can get the yolk out, and this one worked out perfectly. Oops. Well, I'll have to go in after it. Hopefully I don't puncture it. So that's that. Wash my hands. And another bowl so we can work with the egg yolks. So I'm just going to ladle a little bit of the warm milk in, and I'm going to whisk these egg yolks. This is called tempering the eggs. I've never actually done this before, but you do it slowly so that you don't accidentally cook the yolks when you do add them. They're supposed to be close to the same temperature of the milk. I think Hollandaise kind of has a similar idea. With the Hollandaise, you add the warm butter to the egg slowly so that you don't cook the egg. It feels pretty warm, and I'm going to add it into the milk. I'll show you, there's no chunks of egg. It doesn't look like scrambled egg or anything. There's just bubbles floating on the top, so it looks like I tempered it well. This recipe calls for 2 1/4 cups of milk. The reason being that we're going to use cornstarch, which will help solidify the pie filling. And the thing with cornstarch is that it doesn't go into large amounts of liquid very well. It tends to like to hang out with itself more, and so you have to add a little liquid to a lot of cornstarch instead. This calls for 1/4 cup of cornstarch, and this brand Argo, it's gluten-free. I think it even says it on here. Yeah, right under the ingredients you can see. And so I use that, or I'll use a Bob Mills brand instead, because you actually get quite a lot for not a lot of money. So I'm going to start by putting the cornstarch in. I'm not real big on leveling off. Probably just a bad habit of mine. But things always turn out well anyway. So now I'm going to add some more milk. And these come in either a quart or these half-gallon ones. And I got this at Sprouts, but a lot of your grocery stores will carry it. Even my Walmart across the street from here carries goat milk, but they just have the 1 quart. So what I'm going to do, I want to use a whisk for this. And so I just have the cornstarch in here, and I'm going to add just a little bit of the milk first, and it's going to kind of make a paste. And the cornstarch will get really sticky and kind of angry. And the hope is at the end it'll be kind of like a paste, like the kind you used to use in elementary school. It's kind of formed a ball inside the whisk, so I'll probably resort to a fork, which is what I usually end up using. Rest in now. So I start off with a little bit, and then I start off with putting about half in, a little at a time, and then I just put the rest in. And it has gotten a little clumpy, but I can work these out fairly easy rather than in that big pot. So now it kind of looks like milk. It's really liquidy. It's really well dissolved. Now I'm gonna add it to this, and then we're going to, and we bring it to a boil, and I don't know why, but that just seems to activate cornstarch when you add it to things. I remember when my mom, you could just dump the whole thing in. My mom used to make trifle. It's an English dessert with layers of shortcake and usually peaches, bananas, and strawberries. And there'd be layers of custard in it. And I think on an episode of Friends she added ground beef and peas and onions, but it actually tastes pretty good when it's made properly. And for some reason, when you made the custard, I think it had a lot of cornstarch in it, and you had to boil it. And after it was boiled, and it would cool down, it turned into custard. So it just seems to be something that has to happen for cornstarch to do its job. So we're going to bring this milk and egg yolk mixture to a boil with the cornstarch in it. So now it's boiled. There's some dark chunks in it. I think that I might have burned the sugar a little bit. I probably wasn't stirring as often as I needed to. There's a slight, what I usually refer to as goaty odor, which is common with goat milk, but I don't feel like it's something that you can taste when you're actually eating it. And once we get some more flavorful ingredients in there, it won't be nearly as noticeable by smell either. So now that we've gotten it thickened up, I'm going to fold in the vanilla. It calls for a teaspoon. And this is just, I got this at Costco, and it's actually gluten-free. Also, usually if it's going to say it anywhere, it's under the ingredients area. And folding it in, so that's something I actually learned when I was extremely young, because my mom had a Betty Crocker cookbook, and it referred to folding wet into dry ingredients all the time. And that's basically where you go around the sides and you kind of fold the sides into the middle. And yeah, there's some chunks in there, but yeah, first time you do something, you have to expect that it's not going to always come out perfect. Sometimes I get lucky, but it looks like this isn't one of them. So now we're going to add the coconut, and I didn't measure this out in advance, and it's actually, it calls for a cup and 3/4 of a cup. So I'm just going to kind of shovel this in here. And this is going to get folded in as well. So this is 1 cup going in. Actually, I should probably transfer this to a larger bowl if I can. Let me see if there will be a problem with that. Now it looks like I can just go ahead and transfer it. I think ideally the recipe wants you to not use a lot of bowls, and I totally agree with that. But my biggest flaw in the kitchen is not using large enough pots for things. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour this into a bowl so that I can get the rest of the ingredients in without worrying about spilling over. So get this cup of coconut in, and then it calls for 3/4. I don't have a 3/4 cup measuring cup, so I'm just going to kind of guesstimate what 3/4 of a cup is as best I can. I think it may end up using up most of the rest of the coconut anyway. This is the side of things you don't get to see on a cooking show, is all the mistakes they make and all the practice batches they go through before they get to the one that they actually want to show off. It's usually the one that they pull out of the oven already cold, pretending that it's the one they made through TV magic. So spatulas are usually the best thing for folding stuff in. So again, I'm just going around the sides and putting it in the middle. And the coconut's kind of taken over. And it smells very different now. The goatiness has pretty much completely gone now that we have the vanilla and the coconut in. And for some reason the recipe calls for a tablespoon of butter. Normally I would use margarine, but since this is my first time and it's not a lot of butter, this is made from cow's milk. There is goat milk butter, I haven't bought it in a long time because I just don't eat a lot of butter. But since this is my first time, I'm afraid to use Earthbound is what I normally use. They have a lot of different flavors. This one's all made with olive oil. They have ones that are soy-free. They have whipped ones. They're all dairy-free. You'll find a lot of margarines. Though they're made with oil, they'll still contain casein in the ingredients, which is the protein that people with celiac often have issues with. And goat milk actually has casein in it, but it's a different protein molecule. It's actually a lot smaller and seems to somehow sneak past your gut without causing a lot of problems. So, and the casein in cow milk is a lot bigger, and it tends to just kind of sit in your colon, and the bacteria in your colon just go nuts on it. And then you get a lot of gas and bloating and maybe some loose stools and things like that. So that's why I like to use goat milk. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. It's really very dark compared to your store-bought pie, probably because of the how much I toasted the coconut. It looks like the butter has completely disappeared. So this pie shell, they come uncooked. I went ahead and baked it a little bit, I think for about 15 minutes on 400, it's just something that you tend to do, especially with desserts. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do this left-handed. Spoon this in. Okay, so great. It's exactly the right amount. I just hate it when you make pie filling and you end up having enough for 1.5 pies. And then you don't know quite what to do with it. When I was little and we do stuff like this, Mom would always make a small pie. It usually didn't have a crust, but it would be Matthew's pie, and that would be one that we would eat first before we actually had dessert. We would eat that almost right after it was finished, so that we got to taste it, and it was kind of like a nice treat after all the hard work. So now we're going to let this pie just cool. It's pretty much done. So back to the egg whites. You need an electric egg beater. For the longest time, my grandmother didn't have one. She had a huge right arm from whipping cream by hand. I tried to do it this past Christmas. I thought I was going to die. So we're gonna whip the egg whites to kind of a meringue. It calls for more sugar. I believe it's a 1/4 cup. Yeah. Luckily I have another, so because I think the other one's pretty wet. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this out so that I have it ready to go. And this sugar isn't... I tend to buy brand name things just because I feel like they often dedicate their, like Domino Sugar dedicates almost their entire industry to just sugar. They don't have all kinds of side products with wheat. But obviously I was feeling lazy or cheap when I bought that. I'm sure it'll be fine. So we're just going to whip this until we get some soft peaks. Then we add the sugar and continue to whip until they become really stiff peaks. So I'm not sure how fast, plug it in. I'm not sure how fast this will need to be, but I always start off at 1 just to kind of get my bearings. And then I will increase the speed, especially if it seems like I'm not getting anywhere. Okay, just turning this off so you can hear me. The pie is going to have to go in the oven for a little bit just to brown the top. So go ahead and turn it on to 400. Let's see if I'm getting any peaks. Yeah, a little bit, little soft ones. So I'm going to go ahead and slowly add the sugar while whipping. I'm on the medium speed right now. So there goes the sugar. Alright, so I'm gonna guess, yeah, we've got the stiff peaks now. It's a lot like whipping cream now. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. Just rinse these off. Let's see if I can get another step. So I'm going to put the spoon this on top. Try and do this left-handed so you can see. Doesn't have to be pretty going on. You can touch that up later. I'm just going to have to do the rest right-handed. I'm going to put the whole thing on. I usually put it in the middle first so that I can work my way to the edges without it getting out of control. Alright, and just so you can get that nice diner look to it, you can add try to add some peaks to it. Alright, so we'll go go ahead and pop it in the oven. It's just 3 or 4 minutes so that the top can brown and kind of set. And then we'll take it out. Alright, so I had it in for 4 minutes. The top didn't really brown, so I put the broiler on, and I've just been watching it like a hawk, and it's starting to smell like it's burning a little, so I'll go ahead and take it out now. And I guess I got kissed a little too much by the broiler, but here's the finished project. And the fire alarm's going off, so we know it's done.